What are your crazy ex-girlfriend-boyfriend stories? Ex-girlfriend tried to hit me with her car. Chased me down an alley in which a fence too high to jump was on one side and condos on the other. Proceeded to call me next day at work and tell me that I looked like a sexy cheetah running away from her car. My girlfriend told me the week before I went to college that I got her pregnant knowing that we were not going to date long distance. She sent me a picture of a stock photo pregnancy test she cropped that was positive. I literally just Google searched positive pregnancy tests and it was one of the first ones. I made her come over and take another one. It was negative. She left. Oh, mine gets a little more in depth at that. I broke up with the girl on a Monday, but me being me, I tried to stay friends with her. When I broke up with her, she kept saying I needed to give her 6 more weeks for closure, and that I was her last chance at dating. She is 28. On Friday she shows up, and says L0 Bo, I'm going to let you go, but I want you to know I am pregnant. The next day she calls me, saying she is going to the ER. Later that day I get a phone call. She says that it's a tubular pregnancy and she needs to take the abortion pill. Note, usually this requires surgery. She asked me if I would come over that night, because she would need moral support. I felt obligated to go. When I was there, I told her I was going to leave when she went to bed. She started to cry, and said she was afraid she might hurt herself, so I needed to stay there. That freaked me out a bit, so I did. At night then she took my hand, put it on her belly and said say goodbye. So, next day I woke up and got the hell out, figure it was all over. That Monday I get a phone call, she says I am still pregnant. Apparently, according to her, she had had twins, and the one had survived. I told her I wanted to go with her to her next doctor's appointment. She said fine, it was wed. On Tuesday she messages me, tells me they had an opening so she went early. Asked if I wanted a picture, I said sure. She sent me one, and I looked at it. No information on it, so I asked her, and she said they emailed it to her. Made sense, they removed all identifiable information. 2 days later, a friend with better Google foo than me, took that picture and found it online, under someone else's name. You could even see where parts of the image had elements removed. I confronted her about it. She said she couldn't believe I would believe her and my child would never know who I am. The next day she sent me an email saying her lawyer would be in touch. The next day then she sent me an email saying she was going to have the abortion, but I needed to pick her up and pay for it. 5 minutes later she sent me an email saying that if I didn't respond, she would just keep the child. I responded back saying that I had found the image, showed her the link, and said her story has about 1 to 500,000 chance of being real, even without the fake image. I said if she continued to harass me, I would get a protection from harassment. 2 weeks went by, I hear nothing. Then, I get a call at 6 p.m. from her home number. The girl, that sounds very much like her, says that she is her cousin, going to be her lawyer, and I need to call back. Only problem, that callback number was her home phone number, so obviously this is fake as well. Oh, and this has been my last 3 weeks. So it's probably not even over. When I broke up with my ex he became so hysterical that the only way he would let me leave him was if after the breakup we continued to be best friends. Not just any kind of best friend either, he wanted me to still come over for sleepovers and share his bed with him. He told me that any other guy I dated after him had to be 100% okay with this or else I couldn't date him. I had a somewhat similar situation with my first boyfriend. It actually began in a very weird way but, being as young as I was, 14, ignored it because well, someone actually liked me. When I met him we went to different schools. He went to a private school and I went to public school. After a few months of pretty much just an AIM friendship he transferred to my school. First red flag. We started dating if you can even call it that at 14, and I started to notice him getting way too serious about it. He would talk about being together forever and going to college together. He would even scold me if I got a bad grade because I might not get into college. I realized how overwhelming he was and broke up with him. He was so embarrassed that he didn't want to tell his parents, who he apparently tried to convince every day that we would be together forever. He wanted me to go to his house / out to dinner / etc. and pretend we were still together. I felt bad for hurting his feelings so, I did it for a little while. It all finally ended when I began seeing someone else. I told him that I was dating someone and he freaked out. He started crying and yelling at me, ordering me to give back everything he ever gave me, telling me he wanted to kill himself, and then he pulled a painting out of his closet that I briefly mentioned liking. He said was going to give it to me after our 1-year wedding anniversary and I ruined that. That's when I stopped feeling bad and I did not speak to him again. It was very scary. My high school girlfriend told me she had cancer after our first date. She asked me not to tell anyone and that her parents got really upset if it was mentioned, so to not talk about it with anyone. I dated her for 6 months. She turned herself anorexic to appear sickly. Once I started making friends, no one understood why I was with her and I kept her secret. Well, I finally put 2 and 2 together after she told me she was going in for chemo on a Monday. She said she wasn't going to be at school for at least a week. I caught her trying to hide from me before the first class and asked her how her chemo went. She said it went so well and that all her hair fell out, but they sewed it all together and sewed the wig to her head. Yeah. She was a special one. I have 2. First one was a girl I'd been seeing for a few months. I was 21, she was 24 and had a boy about 2 years old. She was basically normal, had a good job, took care of the kid okay. She was kind of a dim bulb though, not very bright. I was bored in the relationship and really didn't want to become stepdad to the kid, so I ended it. No prob. Run into her a month or so later at a bar and we end up going back to her place for a night of sex. Next morning she makes coffee and breakfast, I go to school, she goes to work. I get incredibly sick on the way to school, throw up multiple times, make it to school still puking, find the nurse/medical office and vaguely recall being loaded into an ambulance. Come to in the hospital. A doc tells me I OD'd on an enormous amount of meth and had about 5 minutes left to live before they figured it out. Oh, by the way, there are some federal agents here to talk to you. Turns out she had planned this whole thing and decided that if she couldn't have me, no one could. She went to jail but got a reduced sentence for turning on the family member that was making and distributing the meth. Second one, not as bad. Dated casually for a few weeks, decided she wasn't for me, so I called it off. Get a call a week or so later saying I gave her gonorrhea. Go to the doc, get tested with a thing down Mr. P-hole. Ow. Results come back, I'm clean. It then comes back to me that it was just revenge for breaking up with her. She was going to tell me she was pregnant and make me pay for the abortion, but was talked out of that by her best friend. I would have rather paid the money. I went out of town for my best friend's wedding in which I was a bridesmaid. I didn't take my boyfriend at the time as per request of the bride. It is her day and considering my BF and I were on the outs at the time, I was not opposed to this. He's an ad kid and didn't get his meds refilled before I left town for 4 days. This is his meltdown. Started off okay, we would text back and forth but I wouldn't be able to reply as fast because I'm helping with a wedding. He overdosed on Valium and told me he was wandering around outside. Then doesn't answer his phone for 6 hours. In which I'm panicking cause I'm a 6-hour drive away from my home and I'd if he's wandered off in his upstate or not. Eventually I sent my apartment manager over to see if he had left Tay house or not. Apparently he had fallen asleep cause he took so many drugs. The actual day of the ceremony he flips out again because I don't have time to talk to him at all. Tensions are high for the wedding party as we are pushing to get this ceremony on its way. I leave my phone in my bag while I help the bride and groom. Come back to no less than 10 voicemails and 30 plus texts, half of it incoherent Drukvijaj style typing. This continues the whole weekend. I stop responding. Come home to find my blinds torn, DVD player smashed, cooking oil spilled all over my kitchen floor, that he made me clean up because apparently it was my fault he knocked it over while I wasn't even in town, and my entire nail polish collection, over 50 colors, destroyed. I'm still finding cracked bottles. It's amazing how I haven't died from all those fumes. Red colored Kool-Aid splashed everywhere. Even inside kitchen drawers. I don't even know how that happened. He didn't apologize for any of it. His only words were, "You made me do it. If you hadn't ignored me this would have never happened." We are no longer together of course, but this is just one episode of many. This man will be 30 next month. I pity his next girlfriend. Edit, the incident happened last year. So this is a 29-year-old man throwing temper tantrums.